Hello students, ਅੱਜ ਦੀ ਕਲਾਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ human brain ਬਾਰੇ ਪੜਾਂਗੇ. As we know, human being slowly evolved from his various forms and emerged to be what we are today. And this process of evolution went on for millions of years. We know that with the evolution of human brain, many characteristic features like feeling of attachment, fear and anger became more prominent in human behavior. It all happened because of the evolution of more developed human brain with time. The human brain is the powerhouse and control center for all physiological and cognitive functions. The brain controls lower unconscious physiological activities such as breathing, pulse and digestion, and higher conscious activities such as thinking, reasoning and feeling. The human brain is unique because it contains billions of neurological connections that work together to carry out more complex functions which other organisms cannot do. We will learn many things about our brain in our today's class. We will also learn about the functions that each part of the brain performs. There are three main parts of the brain: the forebrain, the midbrain and the hindbrain. We will also know about an unconscious effort which we usually carry out to protect ourselves. That is reflex action. चलो पहला ब्रेन ਦੀ ਕੁਝ ਨੈਚੁਰਲ ਪ੍ਰੋਟੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਲਈਏ. ਉਂਝ ਤਾਂ ਬ੍ਰੇਨ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਹਾਰਡ ਕਵਰਿੰਗ ਸਕਲ ਜਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਕ੍ਰੇਨੀਅਮ ਵੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਨਕਲੋਜ਼ਡ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ. ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਵੀ ਕੁਝ ਕਵਰਿੰਗਸ ਬ੍ਰੇਨ ਦੇ ਚਾਰੋਂ ਪਾਸੇ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੈਂਟ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਮੈਨਿੰਜੀਜ਼ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਨ. ਜਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ कि the brain is surrounded by three protective coats of connective tissue besides the bony cranium. These are pia mater, arachnoid mater and dura mater. If we talk about pia mater, it is very thin, highly vascular and present close to the brain. Next is arachnoid mater. It is also thin but is non-vascular. There is a narrow space between the pia mater and the arachnoid membrane which is called the subarachnoid space. This space is filled with cerebrospinal fluid. Third and outermost covering is dura mater. It is thick, tough and lines the cranial cavity. Even with these protections, the meninges and deeper tissues within the brain can become bruised when there is a blow or jolt to the head or when the head is severely banged or shaken. चलो इन्हां visual राही समझण दी कोशिश करो.
Three membranes, collectively called the meninges, provide protection by cushioning the brain's soft tissue against the rigid wall of the skull. Three layers cover the brain: the dura mater, a tough leathery outer covering; the arachnoid, a thin inner layer with thread-like strands that attach it to the third layer, pia mater, and this layer is a thin, delicate covering tightly attached to the surface of the brain. In addition to the protection of the layers, cerebrospinal fluid surrounds the brain and cushions it as well and protects the brain from mechanical shocks. A very narrow space also lies between the dura mater and the arachnoid membrane. It is called the subdural space. It also contains some fluid.
Students, the human brain ਸਾਡੇ ਸਰੀਰ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਗੁੰਝਲਦਾਰ ਅੰਗ ਹੈ. It allows us to think, move, feel, see, hear, taste and smell. It controls our body activities, receives information, analyzes information and stores them in the form of memory. The cells of the nervous system are quite fragile and need extensive protection, for which we have been provided enough coverings around our brain, which we have seen just now. Given this complexity, it should not be surprising that most of our body's voluntary and involuntary actions are controlled by brain. As I told you earlier, the brain is made up of three main parts: the forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. The forebrain consists of the cerebrum, thalamus and hypothalamus. The midbrain consists of two structures, corpora quadrigemina and carura cerebri. Third part, the hindbrain, comprises of pons, cerebellum, medulla. You know the midbrain, pons and medulla are together referred to as the brain stem. So students, this was about the distribution of different parts of brain in three major parts. ਹੁਣ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਹਿੱਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਵਿਜ਼ੂਅਲ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਸਮਝਾਂਗੇ, ਪਰ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਇੰਟਰਸਟਿੰਗ ਗੱਲ ਦੱਸਦੀ ਹਾਂ. ਕੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ brain, being a very important part of human body, uses 20% of body energy, but it makes up only 2% of human body's weight. ਚਲੋ ਹੁਣ brain ਦੇ ਅਲੱਗ-ਅਲੱਗ ਹਿੱਸਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝੀਏ. ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ cerebrum ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਜੋ ਕਿ forebrain ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਮੇਜਰ ਪਾਰਟ ਹੈ. Cerebrum is the biggest part of the brain. The cerebrum makes up 85% of the brain's weight. And it's easy to see why. The cerebrum is the thinking part of the brain, and it controls your voluntary muscles, the ones which can be moved the way you want. So, you can't dance or kick a soccer ball without your cerebrum. Let us see how does cerebrum look like.
As we discussed earlier, the forebrain consists of the cerebrum, thalamus and hypothalamus. The cerebrum is divided into two hemispheres, the right and left hemispheres. A deep furrow divides the cerebrum into two halves, that is, the left hemisphere and right hemisphere. The two hemispheres look mostly symmetrical, yet it has been proved that each side functions slightly different from the other. The two hemispheres are connected by a bundle of nerve fibers called corpus callosum. The hemispheres also consist of an inner core called the white matter and the wrinkled outer layer called cortex. The layer of cells which covers cerebral hemisphere is highly wrinkled and is called cerebral cortex. Cerebral cortex is also known as grey matter. White nerve fibers underneath carry signals between the nerve cells and other parts of the brain and body.
Cerebrum ਬਾਰੇ ਇੱਕ ਇੰਟਰਸਟਿੰਗ ਫੈਕਟ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਣਦੇ ਹੋਵੋਗੇ. ਉਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ the right hemisphere is associated with creativity and the left hemisphere is associated with logic abilities. Or we may say that the right half of cerebrum helps you to think about abstract things like music, colors, and shapes. The left half is said to be more analytical, helping you with maths, logic, and speech. Each hemisphere is divided into 4 lobes: the frontal, parietal, temporal, and the occipital lobes. Let us see how our brain is distributed in these 4 lobes and how each lobe is so important.
This is cerebral cortex. It is the layer of cells present over cerebrum. It is crumpled and folded, forming numerous convolutions and crevices. The cerebral cortex is referred to as the grey matter due to its greyish appearance. The cerebral cortex is divided into lobes, each of which has a specific function. This is frontal lobe. It is associated with reasoning, planning, parts of speech, movement, emotions, and problem solving. Next is parietal lobe. This part is associated with movement, orientation, recognition, perception of stimuli. This area is occipital lobe. The lobe is associated with visual processing, as its name suggests. Next is temporal lobe. This area is associated with perception and recognition of auditory stimuli, memory, and speech.
We saw that some areas of cerebral cortex are responsible for motor activities, while the others are sensory in nature. But there are large regions which are neither clearly sensory nor motor in function. Such areas are known as association areas. You know these areas are responsible for processing of multisensory information. चलो हुण वापस फोरब्रेन ते आ जाइए। इस दे 3 भाग सेरिब्रम, थैलेमस एंड हाइपोथैलेमस हुंदे हन। सेरिब्रम बारे तुसी जान लिया है। हुण थैलेमस अते हाइपोथैलेमस नू वेखो।
Thalamus and hypothalamus. Thalamus is a mass of grey matter deeply situated below the cerebrum. The thalamus has numerous functions. The most important one is to relay sensory information to the cerebral cortex. Almost all sensory signals enter this structure, from where neurons send that information to the overlying cortex. Here is hypothalamus. It is an area which lies beneath the thalamus. It secretes many hormones known as hypothalamic hormones. These hormones help to control the body's metabolism.
जे हाइपोथैलेमस दी गल करिए ਤਾਂ ਇਹ ਸਟਰਕਚਰ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਫੰਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਨਵੋਲਵਡ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ, ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਹੋਮਿਓਸਟੈਸਿਸ, ਇਮੋਸ਼ਨ, ਥਰਸਟ, ਹੰਗਰ ਐਂਡ ਕੰਟਰੋਲ ਆਫ ਦੀ ਆਟੋਨੋਮਿਕ ਨਰਵਸ ਸਿਸਟਮ. In addition, it controls the pituitary gland. The hypothalamus receives information from inside of your body and starts your stress response by telling your adrenal glands that you are under stress, so your glands can get you the energy you need. कुछ लोग का ता छोटियां छोटियां गल्ला कारण ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਸਟ੍ਰੈਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਉਣ ਦਾ ਕਾਰਨ ਵੀ ਹਾਈਪੋਥੈਲੇਮਸ ਹੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ। If your hypothalamus has too many neurons that respond to stress, you may be the type of person that overreacts emotionally and physically, even to very small stress. ਇਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ forebrain ਦੀ ਇੱਕ ਹੋਰ ਐਸੋਸੀਏਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਲਿੰਬਿਕ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਦੇ ਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਜਾਣੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਸੈਰੀਬਰਲ ਹੈਮਿਸਫੇਅਰ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰੂਨੀ ਹਿੱਸਿਆਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੁਝ ਹੋਰ very complex structures ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਐਮਿਗਡਾਲਾ, ਹਿਪੋਕੈਂਪਸ etc. present ਹੁੰਦੇ ਹਨ। The hippocampus records details but just facts and data. No emotion is involved, whereas amygdala registers all emotions but prefers to notice the scary threatening ones more just to protect you. ਇਸ ਦੀ ਤੁਲਨਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਸਮੋਕ ਡਿਟੈਕਟਰ ਨਾਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਜੋ ਕਿ as you know, a smoke detector doesn't respond to the smell of cake baking in the oven. But if the cake starts to burn, then it will sound the alarm. Similarly, we don't have to be alert to joys in order to have a healthy life. But if you get hurt emotionally, your life gets threatened. Here, amygdala works to keep you alive. The limbic system is also called the emotional brain. चलो हुन midbrain बारे गल कर लईए. It has two structures, corpora quadrigemina and carura cerebri. चलो visuals ਦੀ ਮਦਦ ਨਾਲ ਸਮਝੀਏ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਸਾਡੇ brain ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿੱਥੇ present ਹੁੰਦੇ ਹਨ।
The midbrain is located between the thalamus and pons. Thalamus, you know, is a part of forebrain and pons is a part of hindbrain. Here is the place where midbrain is present. This is corpora quadrigemina. It contains 4 lobes or colliculi, 2 inferior colliculi and 2 superior colliculi. Therefore, the name corpora quadrigemina. The superior pair of colliculi receives sensory impulses from the eyes and muscles of the head and control visual reflexes. The inferior pair of colliculi receives sensory impulses from the ear and muscles of the head and control auditory reflexes. A canal called cerebral aqueduct passes through midbrain and connects hindbrain with forebrain. Crura cerebri are 2 heavy fibrous tracts on the inferior side of midbrain. Crura cerebri relays sensory as well as motor impulses between forebrain and hindbrain.
Students, you have just seen parts of midbrain. Also, we noticed that the midbrain is responsible for controlling sensory processes. ਹੁਣ forebrain and midbrain ਦੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਵਾਰੀ ਹੈ hindbrain ਦੀ. Hindbrain consists of pons, cerebellum and medulla oblongata. The hindbrain is divided into a ventral portion called the medulla oblongata and a dorsal portion, the cerebellum, and the anterior pons. The medulla is a control center for some autonomic and somatic pathways concerned with vital functions such as breathing, blood pressure, and heartbeat. It also acts as a connecting tract between the spinal cord and the more anterior parts of the brain. The pons is above the medulla and also acts as a connecting tract. The cerebellum is the second largest part of brain and is concerned with balance, equilibrium and muscular coordination. चलो एक पार्ट ਨੂੰ ਧਿਆਨ ਨਾਲ ਵੇਖੀਏ.
The pons is a broad, horseshoe-shaped mass of transverse nerve fibers that connects the medulla with the cerebellum. In Latin language, pons means bridge. The pons forms a very small part of the brain. On the posterior side, it consists mainly of two pairs of thick stalks which are known as cerebellar peduncles. It is basically pathway connecting the two halves of the next part, cerebellum. This is cerebellum, which is placed under the cerebrum. In Latin language, cerebellum means little brain. It is in fact shaped like a small brain, and it is primarily responsible for coordinating involuntary movements of the cerebellum. Has worm-like appearance, a highly convoluted surface in order to provide additional space for many more neurons. This is medulla oblongata, which is also called medulla. It is the lowest part of the brain. It is connected by the pons to the midbrain and is continuous posteriorly with the spinal cord. The medulla has breathing center, cardiovascular center, and center for gastric secretions.
Students, ਕੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਕੰਪਲੈਕਸ ਮੋਟਰ ਐਕਟੀਵਿਟੀ ਸਿੱਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਉਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਇਨਸਟਰਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਸਾਡੇ ਸੈਰੇਬੈਲਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਟੋਰ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਹਨ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ cerebellum is involved in the coordination of voluntary motor movements, balance and equilibrium and muscle tone. Medulla helps to control the body's autonomic functions like respiration, digestion and heart rate, the activities for which you don't need to think about. Pons, जो कि hindbrain ਦਾ ਤੀਜਾ part ਹੈ, ਕਈ important ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ. It plays important role in arousal, sleep, relaying sensory information between cerebrum and cerebellum, and assisting control of autonomic functions. ਚਲੋ ਹੁਣ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਇੰਟਰਸਟਿੰਗ ਨਿਊਰਲ ਐਕਸ਼ਨ ਬਾਰੇ ਚਰਚਾ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਕਿਸੇ ਖਤਰਨਾਕ ਸਿਚੁਏਸ਼ਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਮੀਡੀਏਟ ਐਕਸ਼ਨ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਬਚਾਉਣ ਦੀ ਕਿਰਿਆ ਹੈ. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਮਝ ਗਏ ਹੋਵੋਗੇ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਰਿਫਲੈਕਸ ਐਕਸ਼ਨ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹਾਂ. ਜਦੋਂ ਸਾਡਾ ਹੱਥ ਗਲਤੀ ਨਾਲ ਕਿਸੇ ਗਰਮ ਜਾਂ ਤਿੱਖੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਛੂ ਲੈਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਅਚਾਨਕ ਬਿਨਾਂ ਸੋਚੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਹੱਥ ਨੂੰ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਖਿੱਚ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ. ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਹੀ ਰਿਫਲੈਕਸ ਐਕਸ਼ਨ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਨ. ਚਲੋ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਵਿਜ਼ੂਅਲਸ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਹੋਰ ਸਮਝੀਏ. Let us see why and how our body responds during reflex actions.
Reflex action. A reflex is an automatic response to a stimulus. Extremely hot, cold, pointed objects, or scary and poisonous animals are such stimuli which may trigger our body for a reflex action. When we touch any pointed object, we immediately move our hand away from it. Actually, when we touch this sharp object, a sensory receptor in the skin generates nerve impulses which move along the axon of a sensory neuron towards the cell body and the central nervous system. The cell body of a sensory neuron is located in the dorsal root ganglion present just outside the spinal cord. From the cell body, the impulses continue along the axon of the sensory neuron. The impulses then pass to an interneuron. This interneuron connects with the motor neuron. The dendrites of the motor neuron carry the impulses by the way of ventral root of the spinal nerve. The nerve impulses travel along the axon to muscle fibers, which then contract, and thus we withdraw our hand from the sharp object.
So we can say that a sudden withdrawal of a body part which comes in contact with objects that are extremely hot, cold, pointed, or the animals that are scary or poisonous without the intervention of our will is known as reflex action. Students, did you notice one thing here? That before the sensory stimuli through longer interneurons reach the brain, the action to protect your hand is taken care of by the spinal cord. So we may say that reflex action involves spinal cord and spinal nerve. The route followed by nerve impulses to produce this reflex act is known as reflex arc. This is enough for today. I hope you liked to know so much about your brain. Although we take brain as one unit controlling all your voluntary and involuntary actions, but here you have seen how complex is the complete structure having many small parts, each part performing a different function. So students, enough for today. Let us try some questions now. Question: which of the following is not a part of the hindbrain? Medulla oblongata, thalamus, cerebellum, or pons? The answer is thalamus is not a structure in the hindbrain. The rest all three are the parts of the hindbrain. Next question. Which structures are considered to be part of the limbic system? Answer: amygdala and hippocampus are the structures which form the limbic system. Next question. Complete the following sentence. Dash is a bundle of nerve fibers which connects these two hemispheres of cerebral cortex. Answer: corpus callosum is a bundle of nerve fibers which connects these two hemispheres of cerebral cortex. My next question is, for most people, the cortical areas responsible for understanding language and producing speech are in the dash hemisphere. Answer: for most people, the cortical areas responsible for understanding language and producing speech are in the left hemisphere. Hope I have made a successful attempt to clear all your concepts regarding brain and mechanism of reflex action. Thanks for your cooperation and attention. Looking forward to the next class. See you then. Thanks.